The alley reeked of rotting garbage and something metallic I didn't want to identify. Rain hammered against the cracked asphalt, turning every pothole into a mirror, reflecting the dying neon signs above. My sneakers squelched through puddles as I hurried toward the back entrance of Romano's, already 15 minutes late for my shift. The kitchen would be chaos by now, and Marco would give me that disappointed look that somehow hurt worse than yelling. I pulled my threadbare jacket tighter, feeling the cold seep through the worn fabric. 3 years in this city, and I still hadn't learned to buy a proper coat. But proper coats cost money I didn't have. Not when rent was due in 5 days, and my bank account laughed at the very concept of savings. The emergency exit door hung slightly ajar, which was odd. Marco always kept it locked until the dishwashers arrived. I reached for the handle, then froze. Someone was lying against the dumpster. My first instinct was to keep walking. This neighborhood taught you quickly. Don't look, don't engage, don't become a witness to anything. But something made me stop. Maybe it was the way the figure was positioned. Too still, too broken. Maybe it was the expensive fabric of his suit, so out of place among the trash bags and discarded crates. I should have walked away. Instead, I moved closer. He was young, younger than I expected for someone wearing a suit that probably cost more than my annual salary, late 20s, maybe 30 at most. Dark hair plastered to his forehead by rain, and what looked sickeningly like blood. His face, even battered and swollen, held a refined beauty that didn't belong in this filthy alley. Sharp jawline, straight nose, lips parted slightly as he struggled for breath. But it was his eyes that captured me when they opened. Dark, endless, filled with a fury that made my heart stutter even as consciousness clearly slipped away from him. "Oh, God," I whispered, dropping to my knees beside him. The puddle soaked through my jeans instantly. Cold water mixing with something darker, thicker. Blood pooled beneath him. Too much blood. "Hey, can you hear me?" His gaze found mine, focused with obvious effort. For a moment, something flickered there. Surprise, maybe, or calculation. Even half dead, he was assessing me, measuring threat levels, cataloging escape routes. I'd seen that look before in the eyes of cornered animals. "I'm calling 911, I said, fumbling for my phone with shaking hands. His hand shot out, fingers wrapping around my wrist with shocking strength. "No." His voice was rough, damaged, but carried an authority that made me freeze. "No hospitals. No police. You're bleeding out. You need—" "No." Firmer this time, despite the way his breathing hitched with pain. "They'll find me." Every rational cell in my brain screamed at me to call anyway. To run, to get as far from this man and whatever trouble he carried as humanly possible. But something in his eyes held me captive. A desperation that mirrored my own, in ways I couldn't quite name. "I can't just leave you here," I heard myself say. "Then help me up." It wasn't a request. Even sprawled in garbage and his own blood, he commanded, rather than asked. "My car." Black SUV, end of the alley. I looked where he indicated. Sure enough, a massive vehicle sat in the shadows, so dark it nearly disappeared into the night. How had I not noticed it before? "You can't drive like this. You can barely breathe. You'll drive." Again, not a question. He shifted, trying to rise, and the grunt of pain that escaped him was almost inhuman. "Help me, or leave me. Decide now." I should have chosen leaving, should have walked into Romano's, started my shift, forgotten I'd ever seen him, but my hands were already moving, slipping under his arm, taking far too much of his weight as he struggled to stand. He was solid, heavy with muscle beneath the blood-soaked clothes. The scent of him cut through the alley's stench. Expensive cologne, copper, and something darker, more primal. "Danger," my instincts whispered. This man is danger incarnate. We stumbled toward the SUV, his weight increasing with each step as consciousness wavered. I could feel the warmth of his blood seeping into my jacket, my shirt, marking me with whatever trouble he carried. The driver's side door was unlocked. I wrenched it open, nearly dropping him as I tried to maneuver his considerable frame into the passenger seat. "Keys," I gasped. He patted his pocket weakly, and I had to reach in myself, fingers brushing against his chest, feeling the steady thump of his heart beneath my palm. Still alive. Still fighting. The keys were slick with blood. I ran around to the driver's side, hands shaking so badly I could barely fit the key into the ignition. The engine roared to life, far too powerful, far too expensive. The dashboard looked like a spaceship cockpit, all gleaming displays and buttons I didn't recognize. "Where am I taking you?" My voice cracked. He mumbled an address in a part of the city I'd only heard about, where the wealthy lived in their towers, looking down on the rest of us. Of course. Everything about him screamed money and power, even beaten and bleeding. I threw the SUV into drive and pulled out of the alley, tires squealing on wet pavement. Rain battered the windshield, and I had to lean forward to see through it. My mind raced faster than the engine. What was I doing? Who was this man? The expensive suit, the refusal of hospitals, the obvious violence. It all painted a picture I didn't want to see clearly. "What's your name?" I asked, needing something, anything to make this feel less insane. Silence. I glanced over. His eyes were closed, head lolled back against the leather seat. Panic surged. "Hey, stay awake. What's your name?" His eyes opened to slits. "Dante." The word was barely audible. Dante Moretti. The name meant nothing to me, but the way he said it carried weight, like he expected recognition. I focused on driving, navigating streets I barely knew in a vehicle worth more than I'd earn in a lifetime. Every red light felt like an eternity. Every passing car could be police, could be whoever had done this to him. "Why did they leave you there?" I couldn't help asking. "Why dump you like garbage?" A sound escaped him that might have been a laugh. "Message. To my family. To show..." He coughed, and I heard liquid in it. "That I'm not untouchable. Family." The word hung heavy. Not friends, not colleagues. Family. And suddenly pieces started fitting together in a picture I absolutely didn't want to see. The violence, the expensive suit, the refusal of authorities, the talk of messages and being found. "You're..." I couldn't finish the sentence. "Yes." Simple confirmation. No elaboration needed. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. I was driving a mafia boss, because what else could he be? Through the city in his own vehicle, covered in his blood, becoming an accessory to whatever this was. The smart thing would be to stop the car, get out, run. But my foot stayed steady on the gas. "Almost there," he murmured, and I realized we'd entered a different world. The buildings here reached toward the sky with glass and steel elegance. Doormen stood under awnings, security cameras tracked every corner. Money lived here, and power, and secrets. He directed me with increasingly slurred words to an underground garage. A security gate stood between us and entry, but he reached across me, the heat of him, the weight, and pressed his palm to a scanner I hadn't noticed. The gate opened smoothly, silently. The garage was pristine, almost empty. A handful of vehicles that probably cost 6 figures each sat in designated spots. I pulled into one marked private and killed the engine. Silence rushed in, broken only by our breathing and the tick of cooling metal. "Can you walk?" I asked. "Have to." He reached for the door handle, missed, tried again. The simple action clearly cost him everything. I got out and ran around to help, opening his door just as he started to topple forward. I caught him, barely, his weight driving me back against the SUV. His face was inches from mine now, close enough to see the exact moment his eyes focused on me with real awareness for the first time. "Who are you?" he asked, and despite everything, despite the blood and the pain, there was something sharp in that gaze, something that saw too much. "Nobody," I whispered. "I'm nobody. Nobody doesn't rescue dying men from alleys." His hand came up, fingers ghosting along my jaw, leaving a smear of blood on my skin. "Nobody doesn't drive them home without question." I asked questions, but you still drove. His thumb traced my cheekbone, and I couldn't explain the shiver that ran through me. Danger. My mind screamed again, but my body, traitor that it was, leaned into that touch. "What's your name, nobody?" "Elena." It escaped before I could think better of it. Names had power. Names made this real. Elena. He shaped it carefully, like he was memorizing the syllables. "Thank you, Elena." Then his eyes rolled back, and his full weight collapsed against me. I cried out, legs buckling, barely managing to keep us both from crashing to the concrete. Dante, stay with me." No response. His breathing was shallow, rattling. I had to get help, had to get him inside, had to do something. But I didn't know where to go, didn't know who to call. I was alone in an underground garage with an unconscious Mafia boss, covered in his blood, with no idea what happened next. The elevator across the garage dinged. My head snapped up. The doors slid open, and 3 men stepped out, moving with purpose and coordinated precision. They were armed. I could see the bulge of weapons beneath their jackets. The one in front was older, gray at the temples, with eyes like flint. He took in the scene with a single sweep, his expression hardening. "Get the boss," he barked to the others. Then his gaze landed on me. "Who the hell are you?" I opened my mouth, but no sound came. What could I possibly say? The men moved past me like I wasn't there, lifting Dante with practiced ease. One of them applied pressure to his wounds, muttering medical terms I didn't understand. "I asked you a question," the gray-haired man said, stepping closer. He was as tall as Dante, broader in the shoulders, and the threat radiating from him made my knees weak. "Who are you?" "Elena," I managed. I found him, in an alley. He needed help." His eyes narrowed. "And you just decided to bring him here, a stranger?" "He told me the address. He said no hospitals, no police. I looked at my hands, stained red. I couldn't leave him there." The man studied me for a long moment, and I felt stripped bare, every secret exposed. Then something shifted in his expression. Not softening, exactly, but recalculating. "Come with me," he said. Not a request. "I should go. You're covered in his blood. You drove his vehicle. You know where he lives." Each point hit like a hammer. "You're not going anywhere until we sort this out." Fear flooded my system, cold and sharp. What had I done? What had I walked into? The men were already carrying Dante toward the elevator, and the gray-haired man's hand closed around my upper arm, not painful, but utterly inescapable. "Please," I whispered. "I just wanted to help." "Then you'll help by answering every question I ask." He guided me toward the elevator, and I had no choice but to follow. "And pray that he survives to vouch for you. Because if Dante Moretti dies tonight, Elena..." He looked at me with eyes that had seen death too many times to count. "You won't leave this building alive." The elevator doors closed, sealing my fate. The elevator climbed in silence, broken only by the soft chime of passing floors. I watched the numbers rise, 10, 15, 20, wondering if I was ascending toward my own execution. The gray-haired man still held my arm, his grip firm but not bruising. Professional. He'd done this before, I realized with creeping horror. Escorted people who'd gotten tangled in things they shouldn't have. The penthouse level had no number, just a symbol I didn't recognize. The doors opened onto a private foyer that screamed wealth in whispers rather than shouts. Marble floors, original artwork on the walls, lighting that was somehow both subtle and perfect. The men carrying Dante didn't pause, moving with obvious familiarity down a hallway to the right. I caught a glimpse of them disappearing through double doors before my escort steered me in the opposite direction. "Wait," I protested. "Is he going to be okay? Shouldn't we..." "We have a doctor on call. He'll be here in 5 minutes." The man's tone suggested this was routine. "Right now you need to tell me exactly what happened." He pushed open a door into what looked like an office. Dark wood, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the glittering city, a desk that probably cost more than my car. He released my arm and gestured to a leather chair. "Sit." I sat, because what choice did I have? My legs were shaking anyway. He moved behind the desk, opening a drawer and pulling out a digital recorder. The click as he set it on the polished surface was obscenely loud. Name: Elena Martinez. Age: 24. Where do you live? I rattled off my address in the rundown neighborhood across the city, watching his expression remain carefully neutral. The contrast between our worlds had never been more obvious. Where do you work? Romano's. Italian restaurant on 5th. I'm a server. Was a server, more likely. I'd missed my shift entirely. Marco had probably called 6 times. I didn't dare check my phone. And how exactly did you come across Dante Moretti? I walked him through it. The alley, the rain, finding Dante slumped against the dumpster. The man's eyes never left my face. Reading every micro-expression, cataloging every hesitation, I felt dissected, examined under a microscope. He told you no hospitals, no police, the man repeated when I finished. And you just agreed? He was dying, or looked like he was dying, and he seemed more afraid of getting help than of bleeding out. So yes, I agreed. I met his gaze despite my fear. What was I supposed to do? Most people would have called 911 anyway. Let the professionals handle it. Most people probably would have kept walking. The words came out sharper than intended. I'm starting to think they'd have been smarter than me. Something that might have been respect flickered across his face, probably. He leaned back in his chair. Do you know who Dante Moretti is? I can guess. Guess out loud. I swallowed hard. The suit, the car, the refusal of police, the fact that you have armed men and a doctor on call. He's involved in organized crime. High level. I paused. He said someone left him there as a message, to his family. The man's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. What else did he say? Nothing. He passed out in the car, woke up briefly when we got here, then collapsed again. I looked down at my hands, still stained with Dante's blood. The sight made my stomach turn. That's when you arrived. He studied me for another long moment, then reached over and clicked off the recorder. My name is Vincent Romano. I'm Dante's head of security, and I'm trying to determine if you're a genuine Good Samaritan or the most elaborate plant I've encountered in 20 years. Plant? Someone sent to finish the job, get close, gain trust, wait for an opportunity. His eyes were cold, clinical. It's happened before. The implication hit me like ice water. You think I hurt him? You think I... Anger cut through fear. If I wanted him dead, I would have left him in that alley, or driven off a bridge, or called the people who dumped him there. I brought him home. I'm covered in his blood because I tried to help him. People have done more elaborate things for money. I don't want money. The words burst out of me. I want to go home, take a shower, forget this night ever happened. But instead I'm being interrogated like a criminal when all I did was show basic human decency. Vincent's expression didn't change, but he nodded slowly. Fair enough. He stood, moving to a small bar cart in the corner. You drink? What? Whiskey, vodka, wine? You look like you could use something. I almost laughed. The absurdity of it. Sitting in a Mafia Boss's penthouse, being offered a drink by his head of security while said boss was bleeding out somewhere down the hall. Whiskey. Please. He poured 2 glasses, neat, and handed me one. The crystal was heavy, expensive. I took a sip and the burn felt good, real, cutting through the dreamlike quality of everything. The doctor's with him now, Vincent said, as if reading my mind. Antonio's good. If Dante can be saved, he'll save him. What happened to him? Who did this? That's not your concern. It became my concern when I pulled him out of the garbage. I took another sip, feeling the alcohol steady my nerves. Someone beat him badly and left him to die. That takes planning. Organization. Vincent's eyebrow raised slightly. You're observant. I'm a waitress. Reading situations is part of the job. I set the glass down. Look, I don't want to know your business. I don't want to be involved in whatever this is. But if someone's trying to kill him, and I helped him, am I in danger too? The question hung in the air. Vincent's silence was answer enough. Shit, I whispered. We don't know yet what you are, he said carefully. Could be your collateral damage waiting to happen. Could be your leverage someone will try to use. Could be your nothing at all. Wrong place, wrong time, and tomorrow you go back to your life and this becomes a strange story you never tell anyone. Which one do you think it is? I think... He was interrupted by a knock at the door. One of the men from earlier stepped in, younger than Vincent, with nervous energy. Boss is asking for the girl, my heart lurched. He's awake? Barely. Doctors got him stabilized for now, but he's insisting. The man's eyes found me, curious and wary. Won't settle until he sees you, Vincent sighed. Of course he won't. He gestured for me to stand. Come on. But Elena? He waited until I met his eyes. Don't say anything that makes me regret not putting a bullet in you when I had the chance. The casual way he said it made my blood freeze. They led me down the hallway, past rooms I couldn't help glancing into. A living space that looked like something from an architecture magazine, a kitchen with appliances I didn't recognize. Art that probably belonged in museums. Everything was pristine, controlled, expensive. A far cry from my cramped apartment with its peeling paint and temperamental heating. The double doors opened into what must have been Dante's bedroom. The space was enormous, dominated by a massive bed where he now lay, shirtless, covered in bandages and connected to an IV drip. The doctor, Antonio, presumably, looked up as we entered, his expression grim. He needs rest. This is inadvisable. Noted, Vincent said. 5 minutes. Dante's eyes were closed, his face pale beneath the bruising. But as I approached the bed, they opened, finding me immediately. The intensity in that gaze, even weakened, made my breath catch. Elena. My name on his lips sounded different than when I'd said it in the garage, possessive, somehow. You stayed. They didn't give me much choice, I said, trying for lightness and failing. How are you feeling? Like I got thrown off a building, a ghost of a smile. But alive. Because of you. The doctor did the hard work. You did the impossible work. You stopped. His hand moved on the covers, fingers extending toward me. Come here. I glanced at Vincent, who nodded curtly. I stepped closer, and Dante's hand found mine. His grip surprisingly strong. The touch sent electricity up my arm. Why? He asked. Why help me? I don't know, I admitted. I should have kept walking. Should have called the police. Should have done anything except what I did, but you didn't. No. His thumb traced patterns on my palm, and I couldn't look away from his eyes. Dark, fathomless, holding secrets and violence and something else I couldn't name. Do you know what that means, Elena? That I make terrible decisions? The smile reached his eyes this time. That you're mine now. The words should have terrified me, should have sent me running. Instead, heat flooded my body, and I couldn't explain why. I'm not anyone's. Not yet. His grip tightened. But they saw you. Whoever did this, they have eyes everywhere. And if they know you helped me, if they know you brought me home, his expression darkened. You're in danger. Vincent mentioned that. Then you understand. I can't let you go back to your life. Can't let you walk out that door unprotected. His breathing was labored, each word costing him. You saved me. Now I have to save you. By keeping me here? The reality of it crashed down. I'm a prisoner? You're protected. Dante's eyes burned into mine. There's a difference. Is there? Vincent. Dante didn't look away from me. The apartment 2 floors down. It's furnished? I set it up for Elena. Security detail. Everything she needs. She stays here until we neutralize the threat. Wait, I protested. I can't just disappear. I have a job. Bills. A life. Your life ended the moment you pulled me from that alley. Dante's voice was gentle, but absolute. This is your life now, at least until I make sure you survive it. The doctor cleared his throat. Dante, you need rest. This conversation can wait. No, it can't. Dante's gaze finally left mine, sweeping to Vincent. Find out who did this. I want names by morning. Already on it. And Vincent? Dante's voice dropped to something cold, lethal. When you find them, keep them breathing. I want to deliver the message personally. The promise of violence in those words made the room feel smaller, the air thinner. This was who he really was, I realized. Not the broken man in the alley, not the patient in the bed. This was Dante Moretti, Mafia Boss, dealer of death and retribution, and I'd saved his life. Come on, Vincent said, touching my elbow. Let him rest. I let myself be guided toward the door, but Dante's voice stopped me at the threshold. Elena. I turned back. His eyes held mine across the distance. Thank you. For my life. I won't forget it. I nodded, unable to speak around the lump in my throat, and let Vincent lead me out. In the hallway, I finally found my voice. How long? Until it's safe? Vincent shrugged. Could be days. Could be weeks. Depends on how fast we move and how well connected his enemies are. And if I refuse? If I just leave? He stopped, turning to face me fully. Then you'll be dead within 24 hours. Maybe less. These people are thorough, Elena. They don't leave loose ends. His expression softened almost imperceptibly. Dante's right. You're safer here than anywhere else in the city. So I trade one cage for another. This cage has room service and a hell of a view. He started walking again. Could be worse. We took the elevator down 2 floors. The apartment was smaller than Dante's penthouse, but still larger than any place I'd ever lived. Modern, expensive, sterile in its perfection. Vincent showed me the bedroom, bathroom, kitchen, all stocked, all ready, as if they'd been expecting me. There are clothes in the closet, toiletries in the bathroom. If you need anything else, there's a phone by the bed. Dial 0. He moved toward the door. Someone will be outside at all times, for your protection. You mean to make sure I don't leave, both. He paused in the doorway. Get some rest, Elena. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. Then he was gone, and I was alone. I stood in the center of the pristine living room, still wearing my blood-stained clothes, and finally let myself process everything. The fear, the adrenaline, the surreal horror of the last few hours crashed over me like a wave. My knees gave out, and I sank to the floor, pressing my hands to my face. What had I done? What had I walked into? My phone buzzed in my pocket. I'd forgotten I still had it. 7 missed calls from Marco, 3 from my roommate Jess, 2 from numbers I didn't recognize. A text from Jess. Where are you? Marco's pissed. You okay? How could I possibly answer that? I typed. Something came up. Emergency. Tell Marco I'm sorry. It was inadequate. But what else could I say? I found a Mafia Boss bleeding in an alley, and now I'm trapped in a luxury apartment by people who might kill me if I try to leave. Another buzz. Jess. What kind of emergency? You need help? I stared at the question. Did I need help? Could anyone help me now? Vincent's words echoed. If you leave, you'll be dead within 24 hours. I'm fine, I lied. Just need a few days. Cover for me? Always. Be safe. If she only knew. I forced myself to stand, to move toward the bathroom. The mirror showed me a stranger, wild-eyed, pale, covered in someone else's blood. I looked like I'd walked through a war zone. Felt like it too. The shower was enormous, all glass and chrome and multiple heads. I stripped off my ruined clothes, letting them fall to the marble floor, and stepped under water hot enough to scald. Red swirled down the drain, Dante's blood washing away, but the memory of it remained. The weight of him against me, the heat of his skin, the intensity in his eyes when he'd said, "You're mine now." I scrubbed until my skin burned, until the water ran clear, until I couldn't tell if the wetness on my face was spray or tears. When I finally emerged, wrapped in a towel softer than anything I'd ever owned, exhaustion hit like a physical blow. I found the bedroom, pulled back covers that probably cost more than my monthly rent, and climbed into a bed that felt like sleeping on a cloud. I should have been too wired to sleep, too afraid, too overwhelmed, but my body had other ideas. As soon as my head hit the pillow, darkness pulled me under. I dreamed of dark eyes and blood-stained hands, of cages made of gold, and promises whispered in the dark. Of danger and desire twisted so tightly together, I couldn't tell where one ended and the other began. And somewhere above me, 2 floors up, Dante Moretti lay healing in his own bed, planning retribution against his enemies. While I, Elena Martinez, nobody, server girl who'd made one catastrophic decision, had somehow become the most dangerous thing of all, a person Dante Moretti felt he owed. Sunlight woke me, streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows I'd been too exhausted to notice the night before. For a moment, I didn't remember where I was. The sheets were too soft, the mattress too perfect, the silence too complete. Then it all came rushing back, the alley, the blood, Dante's eyes boring into mine as he claimed ownership of my life. I sat up, heart racing, and checked my phone. 9:47 a.m. I'd slept for nearly 10 hours. 14 missed calls now, most from Marco. One voicemail I couldn't bring myself to listen to. A text from Jess. Marco fired you. Sorry, babe. What the hell is going on? Fired. Of course. I'd abandoned my shift without explanation, disappeared without a word. In Marco's world, that was unforgivable. In my old world, the one that existed before last night, losing that job would have been catastrophic. Rent, bills, food, everything depended on those tips and that meager hourly wage. But that world felt distant now, separated from me by an invisible barrier I couldn't cross. I found the clothes Vincent had mentioned. An entire wardrobe in the closet, all in my size. The realization sent chills down my spine. How had they known? Had they measured me while I slept? The thought of strangers entering this room, examining me, made my skin crawl. But the alternative, wearing yesterday's blood-stained clothes, was worse. I chose jeans and a simple black sweater, both fitting perfectly. Too perfectly. Everything in this gilded cage was too perfect, too controlled, too prepared, like they'd done this before. Like I wasn't the first person to wake up trapped in luxury, wondering how their life had derailed so completely. The apartment was quiet, except for the ambient hum of the city below. I explored cautiously, opening doors, mapping my new prison. 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a kitchen stocked with food I hadn't bought, a living room with furniture that looked professionally staged, impersonal, sterile, a hotel room pretending to be a home. I found the phone Vincent had mentioned and stared at it for a long moment before lifting the receiver. It rang once before a male voice answered. Miss Martinez, what do you need? Not, how can I help you? Or, good morning. Just straight to business. I swallowed my unease. I'd like to see Dante, to check if he's okay. Silence. Then, I'll inquire. Wait there. The line went dead. I set the receiver down and moved to the windows, looking out over a city I barely recognized from this height. Somewhere down there was my apartment. My life. My roommate probably fielding questions I'd left her no way to answer. Somewhere down there was the alley where I'd made the choice that brought me here. Would I make it again? Knowing what I know now, I didn't have an answer. The door opened without warning, making me jump. Vincent stood there looking exactly as he had last night. Crisp suit, alert eyes, hand probably resting near a concealed weapon. How did these people live like this? Always on guard, always expecting violence. He'll see you, Vincent said. But the doctor's with him. Don't tire him out. I followed him to the elevator, acutely aware of his scrutiny. In daylight, the building's luxury was even more apparent. Everything gleamed, from the marble floors to the brass fixtures. Money whispered from every surface. How is he? I asked as we ascended, alive, pissed off. Already trying to work despite 3 broken ribs and a concussion. Vincent's tone held grudging admiration. Typical Dante. What happened to him? Really? Vincent's eyes met mine in the elevator's mirrored walls. You don't want to know. I'm trapped here because of it. I think I deserve to know. He considered this, then sighed. Rival family. They've been pushing into Moretti territory for months, testing boundaries. Last night was their statement that even Dante isn't safe. They just grabbed him off the street, lured him to a meeting, false intel about a shipment. By the time we realized it was a trap, his jaw clenched. They had him for 3 hours before dumping him in that alley, wanted us to find him like that, broken, humiliated. 3 hours. I thought of Dante's injuries, the blood, the way he'd struggled to breathe. What had they done to him in those 3 hours? But you didn't find him, I said quietly. I did. No. You found him. Vincent's expression shifted, something almost like gratitude flickering across his face, which is the only reason he's alive. They didn't expect some waitress to stumble across him and actually help. They expected him to bleed out alone, or for us to find him too late. The elevator opened. Vincent led me down the familiar hallway to Dante's room. The doctor was packing up his equipment, looking exhausted. He nodded at Vincent, gave me a curious glance, and left without a word. Dante sat propped against pillows, still shirtless beneath the bandages, but his color was better. The bruising on his face had deepened to purple and black, making his dark eyes stand out even more starkly. Those eyes locked onto me the moment I entered, and I felt the impact like a physical touch. Elena. He gestured to the chair beside his bed. Sit. I sat, hyper-aware of Vincent standing by the door, watching. Dante's hand found mine immediately, fingers threading through mine with casual possessiveness. The touch shouldn't have felt good, shouldn't have sent warmth spreading up my arm. Did you sleep? He asked. Yes, you? Some. His thumb traced circles on my palm, a gesture that felt both soothing and proprietary. Vincent tells me you're asking questions. Shouldn't I? Most people in your position would be cowering, crying, demanding to be released. Would it do any good? That ghost of a smile again. No. Then why waste energy on it? I met his gaze steadily, refusing to be intimidated despite the flutter of fear in my chest. I'm stuck here until you decide I'm not. Might as well understand why. Dante studied me with an intensity that felt like being dissected. You're not what I expected. What did you expect? Fear? Compliance? Maybe hysteria? His hand tightened on mine. Not this. This? Strength. Pragmatism. He shifted. Fire. Wincing at the movement. And I instinctively reached out to steady him. His free hand caught my wrist, holding me close. You saved my life, Elena. Do you understand what that means in my world? That you feel obligated to protect me? That I own you. The words were matter of fact, not cruel. Simply truth as he saw it. You're mine now. My responsibility. My property. I should have yanked my hand away, should have protested, argued, fought, but something in his eyes held me frozen. Not threat, but promise. Of what? I couldn't say. I'm not property, I managed. I'm a person. A person who gave me my life back. That creates a bond, whether you want it or not. His thumb brushed over my racing pulse. And I protect what's mine, Elena. Fiercely. Completely. No one will touch you while you're under my protection. And when the threat is gone, when your enemies are dealt with, silence stretched between us. Vincent cleared his throat from the doorway. Boss, you have calls to return. Business that can't wait. Dante's jaw tightened in frustration, but he nodded. To me, he said, we'll talk more. Tonight, have dinner with me. It wasn't a request. Here? I asked. Where else? His smile was dark. You're not leaving this building, Tesoro. Not until I say so. The endearment, treasure, my high school Spanish provided, should have felt manipulative. Instead, it sent shivers down my spine. I pulled my hand from his grasp and stood, needing distance, needing to think clearly. I'll see you tonight, I said, and let Vincent escort me out. In the hallway, I finally breathed. Does he always get what he wants? Vincent's laugh was short, humorless. Always, one way or another. And if I refuse dinner, then he'll have it brought to your apartment and sit outside your door until you eat. Trust me, it's easier to just cooperate. We reached the elevator. Elena, a word of advice? I waited. Dante's interested in you, and when Dante's interested in something, he doesn't let go until he's satisfied. Fighting it will only make things harder. His eyes were serious, almost sympathetic. Learn to bend before you break. The words haunted me as I returned to my apartment. I spent the day in restless limbo, unable to settle, unable to stop replaying every interaction with Dante, the way he looked at me, the way he touched me, the casual certainty with which he claimed ownership. I should have been terrified, was terrified in part, but there was something else too, something dark and complicated that I didn't want to examine too closely. My phone rang. Marco. Against my better judgment, I answered. Elena, where the hell have you been? His anger crashed through the line. You disappear mid-shift. Don't answer calls. Don't explain. I'm sorry, Marco. There was an emergency. I don't care if your apartment burned down. You don't just abandon your job. He took a breath, And I heard the hurt beneath the anger. I trusted you, gave you extra shifts when you needed money. And this is how you repay me? Guilt twisted my stomach. You're right. I'm sorry. I'll come by. We can talk. Don't bother. I already hired someone else. You're done. He paused. I thought you were better than this, Elena. The line went dead. I stared at the phone, the finality of it sinking in. My job was gone. My income, my routine, my small piece of stability, all erased because I'd stopped to help a stranger. The unfairness of it burned, but what choice had I really had? Leave Dante to die, call the police and sign both our death warrants. There were no good options, only varying degrees of terrible. Evening fell over the city, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. I showered, changed into a dress I found in the closet, simple, black, elegant, and waited. At 7 sharp, a knock at my door. Not Vincent this time, but a younger man I didn't recognize. Mr. Moretti is ready for you, miss. I followed him to the elevator, up to the penthouse, into a dining room I hadn't seen before. The table could have seated 20, but was set intimately for 2, candles flickering between crystal glasses. And at the head of the table, dressed now in dark slacks and a white shirt that made his bruises stand out starkly, sat Dante. He stood when I entered, slowly, carefully. But the gesture was automatic. Old-world manners from a man who dealt in violence and fear. Elena, you look beautiful. I felt beautiful under that gaze, which was its own kind of danger. You should be resting. I've been resting all day. I'll go mad if I rest anymore. He pulled out my chair, waiting until I sat before returning to his own seat. The staff appeared silently, pouring wine, placing plates of food that smelled incredible. We ate in relative silence at first, the tension between us thick and complicated. I could feel him watching me, studying every movement, every expression. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. Why am I really here, Dante? He set down his fork, giving me his full attention. I told you. Protection. There's more to it than that. Is there? His smile was enigmatic. Perhaps I enjoy your company. You don't know me. I know you stopped when others wouldn't. Know you helped when you had every reason to run. Know you're sitting here having dinner with me instead of screaming or crying or begging. He leaned forward slightly. I know you're stronger than you think you are. And I know that interests me greatly. I'm not a toy for you to play with. No. You're something far more valuable. His eyes burned into mine. You're the person who holds my life in her hands. Do you know how rare that is? How few people I trust that completely? You don't trust me. You're holding me prisoner. I'm keeping you safe, he corrected. There's a difference. You keep saying that. I don't see it. Dante stood, moving around the table despite the obvious pain it caused him. He crouched beside my chair, bringing his face level with mine. This close, I could see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes, smell the expensive cologne that couldn't quite mask the scent of antiseptic from his wounds. The people who did this to me won't stop, he said quietly. They'll come after everyone connected to me. Family, friends, business associates. And now you. Because you were seen helping me, because you brought me home, because you matter to me. I don't matter to you. You don't even know me. His hand came up, cupping my jaw with surprising gentleness. You saved my life, Elena. That makes you matter. And I don't let go of what matters to me. The air between us crackled with tension. I could feel my heart pounding, could see my pulse jumping in the hollow of my throat. His gaze dropped to it, darkening, and I knew he could see my body's betrayal, the way I responded to his nearness despite my mind's protests. Tell me you don't feel this, he whispered. Tell me you don't feel the pull between us. Tell me I'm imagining the way you lean into my touch, the way your breath catches when I'm close. I couldn't tell him that, because it would be a lie. This is insane, I breathed. You're injured. I'm trapped here. People are trying to kill you. All true. And yet. His thumb traced my lower lip, and I shivered. Here we are. Dante. The explosion shattered the windows. Glass rained down like deadly snow. Dante's body slammed into mine, driving us both to the floor as another explosion rocked the building. His weight crushed the air from my lungs, his arms caging me against the marble as debris pelted his back. I felt him grunt with pain, his injuries screaming, but he didn't move, didn't let up. "Stay down," he growled against my ear. Alarms shrieked. Somewhere, people were shouting. The acrid smell of smoke filled my nose. My ears rang from the blast, the world muffled and distant. But through it all, I felt the steady thump of Dante's heart against my shoulder blade, proof that we were both still alive. Footsteps thundered into the room. "Boss!" Vincent's voice sharp with urgency. "We need to move. Now!" Dante shifted, his hand finding the back of my head, pressing my face against his chest. "How many?" "At least 6 on the lower levels, could be more. They hit the garage first, took out most of our vehicles. Vincent was close now. I could smell gunpowder on him." "This was coordinated. They're coming for you. The safe room, compromised. They knew our protocols." Vincent's voice held a fury I hadn't heard before. "We have a mole, boss. Someone told them everything." Dante's entire body tensed. Then, with movements that must have cost him everything, he pulled me up with him. Blood seeped through his white shirt. His wounds had reopened, but his face showed nothing except cold calculation. "The east stairwell? Clear for now. But we need to go." Dante's hand closed around mine, and suddenly we were moving. He pulled me through smoke and shattered glass, past overturned furniture and bullet holes I tried not to see. Vincent led the way, gun drawn, 2 more guards flanking us. We hit the hallway at a run, my bare feet. I'd lost my shoes in the blast, slipped on marble slick with something I didn't want to identify. Dante caught me without breaking stride, his grip on my hand tightening painfully. We burst through a service door I hadn't noticed before, into a concrete stairwell that echoed with our footsteps. Down. Always down. My legs burned, my lungs screamed, but Dante's hand in mine was an anchor, pulling me forward. Behind us, gunfire erupted. Close, too close. "Keep moving," Vincent barked. "Don't stop, don't look back." We spiraled down floor after floor. 20, 15, 10. The building shook again. Another explosion, distant but powerful. What were they using? How many people were dying above us? "The lobby's a kill box," one of the guards said. "They'll have it covered." "Sub-basement," Dante replied, not even winded despite his injuries. How was he doing this? "Emergency exit to the tunnels." We crashed through a door marked "Authorized Personnel Only" and into a parking garage I hadn't known existed. Service vehicles, maintenance equipment, everything covered in dust. Vincent led us to a heavy steel door half hidden behind storage racks. "This comes out 3 blocks away," he explained, punching a code into a keypad. "Old subway maintenance tunnel. City forgot it exists." The door groaned open. Beyond was darkness so complete it felt solid. The smell hit me. Damp concrete, rust, decay. Dante pulled a flashlight from an emergency kit near the door, the beam cutting through blackness to reveal a narrow tunnel stretching into nothing. "Go," Vincent said. "I'll hold them here." "Vincent," Dante started. "You're the boss. You survive. That's what matters." Vincent's eyes found mine. "Keep him alive, Elena, whatever it takes." Then he was pushing us into the tunnel, the steel door slamming shut behind us. The sound of the lock engaging felt like a coffin ceiling. Dante's flashlight swept forward. "This way. Stay close." We walked in silence, broken only by dripping water and our ragged breathing. The tunnel was barely wide enough for us to move side by side, the walls pressing in. My imagination filled the darkness with horrors. Rats, collapse, enemies waiting in the shadows. How did they know? I finally asked. About the safe room, the protocols? Someone close betrayed me. Dante's voice was dead, emotionless. Someone I trusted. When I find out who, he didn't finish, didn't need to. My mind raced. Vincent had mentioned a mole. Someone inside Dante's organization. Someone with access to everything. The attack had been too precise, too well-informed. They'd known exactly where to hit, when to strike, how to cut off escape routes. "Where are we going?" "Safe house." one of several the family maintains. This one only 3 people know about. His hand squeezed mine. 2 of them are dead. The 3rd is my uncle, and he's in Sicily. So we'll be safe there? For now. Until I figure out who's trying to kill me and make them regret being born. The tunnel seemed endless. My feet ached, bleeding from cuts I couldn't see. But Dante never slowed, never wavered, pulling me forward with grim determination. How was he even standing? The explosions, the running, the injuries. He should have collapsed by now, but he didn't. Because men like Dante Moretti didn't collapse. They endured. They survived. They took their pain and turned it into fuel for vengeance. Finally, after what felt like hours, but was probably 20 minutes, we reached another door. Dante worked the lock, manual, old-fashioned, requiring a key he produced from somewhere, and pushed it open. We emerged in a basement I didn't recognize. Concrete walls, exposed pipes, the hum of machinery. Dante led us to stairs, up into what looked like an abandoned warehouse. Windows painted black, dust everywhere, the air stale and unused. "Wait here," he said, releasing my hand for the first time since the penthouse. "I need to check if it's clear." "Dante, you're bleeding." "I'm fine." But he wasn't. I could see the blood spreading across his shirt, could see the way he favored his ribs. "Stay here, Elena. Don't move." He disappeared into the shadows, flashlight beam dancing across empty space. I stood there, shaking, adrenaline draining away to leave me hollow and terrified. What was happening? An hour ago, I'd been having dinner. And now people were dead. The penthouse was destroyed. We were hiding in an abandoned warehouse while enemies hunted us. This was Dante's world. Violence and betrayal, smoke and blood. And I was trapped in it, bound to him by a choice I'd made in an alley. He returned, moving stiffly. "Clear. Come on." Through the warehouse to another door, this one leading to a narrow alley. A car waited, nondescript, old, the kind that would never draw attention. How had it gotten here? How long had this escape route been planned? Dante opened the passenger door for me, and I slid in, my body finally giving in to exhaustion. He got behind the wheel, started the engine. It turned over smoothly, clearly maintained despite its appearance, and we pulled into late-night traffic. The city rolled past, familiar and foreign at once. We were somewhere in the industrial district, streets empty except for the occasional truck. Dante drove with one hand, the other pressed against his side, blood seeping between his fingers. "You need a doctor," I said. "Can't risk it. Not until we're secure. You'll bleed out. Then you'll have to stop the bleeding." He glanced at me, and in the passing streetlights, I saw pain etched into every line of his face. "Can you do that, Elena?" Could I? I'd never done more than basic first aid. But looking at him, at the blood, at the stubborn determination that kept him upright, I knew I didn't have a choice. "Tell me what to do." We drove for another 15 minutes, winding through neighborhoods that got progressively worse. The safe house was in a part of the city I'd never been to, where buildings leaned into each other like drunks, where streetlights were more often broken than functional, where even at this hour, shadows moved with predatory intent. The house itself was unremarkable. 2 stories, peeling paint, surrounded by similar structures in similar decay. Perfect camouflage. Who would look for a mafia boss here, in the heart of the city's forgotten underbelly? Dante pulled into a garage around back, the door opening automatically, then closing behind us. We were sealed in again, but this time it felt safer, hidden. The garage was surprisingly clean, stocked with supplies, water, food, medical equipment. "First aid kit," Dante said, pointing to a metal cabinet. "Bandages, antiseptic, needle, and thread." Needle and thread. He expected me to stitch him up. My hands shook as I gathered supplies, as I helped him from the car, as we made our way into the house proper. The interior was sparse but functional. Furniture that had seen better days, thick curtains over every window, the smell of disuse. Dante sank onto a couch with a grunt, and I saw just how much blood he'd lost. Too much. "Your shirt," I said. "It needs to come off." He tried to raise his arms but couldn't manage it. Pain flashed across his face, quickly suppressed. I moved closer, helping him, easing the fabric over his head. The bandages underneath were soaked through, revealing wounds that had torn open, some from the original attack, others from our escape. "The doctor stitched you up properly," Dante said, his voice tight. "You just need to clean it, rebandage, make sure nothing's infected. Just." As if that were simple, as if I'd done this before, but I'd saved his life once already. I could do this. I worked carefully, following his terse instructions, cleaning the wounds with antiseptic that made him hiss through his teeth, examining the stitches. Most held, but 2 places had torn. I'd have to restitch them. "I've never done this before," I admitted, threading the needle with shaking hands. "You will now." His eyes met mine, dark and intense. "I trust you, Elena." Those words steadied me. I didn't know why. Didn't understand the weight they carried, but I felt it settle over me like a mantle. His trust, his faith, his life placed in my inexperienced hands. The first stitch made him tense, but he didn't make a sound. I worked slowly, carefully, trying to remember everything I'd seen in movies, in TV shows, knowing it wasn't enough, but doing it anyway. Stitch by stitch, closing the wounds that violence had opened. "Why me?" I asked as I worked. "You could have anyone. Professional doctors, skilled people. Why trust me with this? Because you're here. Because you haven't run. Because when you had the chance to leave me in that alley, you stayed." His hand found my knee, squeezed gently. "That means something, Elena. Means more than skill or experience." I finished the last stitch, tied it off, bandaged everything with hands that were steadier now. When I was done, I sat back, looking at my work. Not professional, but adequate. "He'd survive. Thank you," he said softly. "You keep thanking me for keeping you alive. Maybe stop getting yourself nearly killed." The laugh that escaped him was pained but genuine. If I'd known a beautiful woman would scold me for it, I'd have been more careful years ago. Beautiful. The word shouldn't have affected me, but heat bloomed in my chest, spreading through my body like wine. "You need to rest," I said, standing. "Real rest. No running, no fighting, no—" He caught my wrist, pulling me back down. Suddenly I was very close, our faces inches apart, his breath warm on my lips. "Stay with me," he said. Not a command this time, a request. "Please, I don't want to be alone." I should have refused. Should have put distance between us, maintained boundaries, but his eyes held such raw vulnerability, such honest need that I couldn't. "Okay," I whispered. "I'll stay." He shifted, making room on the couch, and I curled against his uninjured side. His arm came around me, holding me close, and despite everything, the violence, the fear, the insanity, I felt safe. We sat in silence as the night deepened around us. Outside, the city breathed and moved, full of people who had no idea that a war was being waged in its shadows. Tomorrow would bring new dangers, new betrayals, new battles. But tonight, in this moment, we were alive. And somehow, against all logic and reason, that was enough. "Elena," Dante murmured, his voice heavy with exhaustion, "when this is over, when the enemies are dealt with and the mole is found, I'm not letting you go." My heart stuttered. "Dante, I know it's insane. I know we barely know each other, but from the moment you pulled me from that alley, something changed. You're in my blood now, Tesoro, under my skin, and I protect what's mine. I'm not yours. Not yet." His lips brushed my temple. "But you will be, because I've decided. And when I decide something, Elena, I don't stop until I have it." The promise in those words should have terrified me. Instead, heat pooled low in my belly, desire mixing with fear in a combination I didn't understand but couldn't deny. I didn't answer. Couldn't answer. Because some part of me, the part that had stopped in that alley, that had driven him home, that had stitched his wounds, already knew. I was already his. I just hadn't admitted it yet. I woke to gray dawn light filtering through the gaps in the heavy curtains, my body stiff from sleeping upright against Dante's chest. His heartbeat thrummed steady beneath my ear. Alive, strong, despite everything. I shifted carefully, trying not to wake him, but his arm tightened around me immediately. "Don't move," he murmured, voice rough with sleep. Not yet. So I stayed, listening to the city wake up outside our hiding place. Distant traffic, a dog barking, the rumble of a garbage truck. Normal sounds. A normal morning for everyone except us. "How do you feel?" I asked quietly, like I was blown up and stitched back together by an amateur, but there was warmth in his tone, almost affection, which is better than I have any right to feel. I pulled back enough to look at him. The bruising had deepened overnight, purple and black spreading across his ribs where they weren't bandaged. But his eyes were clearer, focused, burning with the same intensity that had captured me in that alley. "We need food," I said, practical concerns grounding me. "Water. You need proper medical attention. What I need is information." He sat up slowly, wincing. Vincent should have checked in by now. As if summoned, a phone rang. Not the one in my pocket, but a burner Dante produced from somewhere in the couch cushions. He answered without greeting. "Talk to me." A pause. His expression darkened. "How many?" Another pause. Longer. "And the girl?" His eyes found mine. "Understood. We'll stay dark until you give the all clear." He ended the call, and for a moment just sat there, processing. "Vincent?" I asked. "He's alive. 5 of my men aren't." The words were flat, controlled, but I heard the grief beneath them. "The penthouse is destroyed. They're calling it a gas leak in the media. But we know better." "And the people who did it?" "Vincent captured 2 of them. They're providing information." The way he said it made my stomach turn. I didn't want to imagine what providing information meant in Dante's world. "We'll have names soon. Then we'll respond." Respond. Such a clinical word for what I knew would be brutal retribution. "What about me?" I hated how small my voice sounded. "They saw me with you, at the penthouse. If there's a mole, you're with me." His hand cupped my jaw, tilting my face up to meet his gaze. "That means you're untouchable. Anyone who comes after you comes after me. And I'll burn their entire world to ash before I let that happen." The fierce possessiveness in his eyes should have alarmed me. Instead, it kindled something dark and wanting in my chest. When had I started craving this? His protection, his obsession, his absolute certainty that I belonged to him. "I need to call my roommate," I said, needing to ground myself in my old life, the one that existed before Dante. "She'll be worried." Dante considered this, then nodded. "Use my phone. Don't tell her where you are or what's happened, just that you're safe." I took the burner with shaking hands and dialed Jess's number. She answered on the first ring. "Elena." "Jesus Christ, where are you? I've been calling for 2 days. I'm okay. I'm safe. Something came up, and I had to leave town for a while." "Leave town? What the hell is going on? Marco's furious, your rent is due, and some guy came by yesterday asking about you." My blood went cold. "What guy?" "I don't know. Mid-30s, expensive suit. Gave me the creeps. Said he was an old friend. Wanted to know where you were. I told him I didn't know. But Elena, he scared me. The way he looked at your room, like he was memorizing it." Dante was watching me, reading my expression. I saw his jaw clench, saw fury flash in his eyes. "Listen to me carefully, Jess. Pack a bag and go stay with your sister in Boston. Today. Right now." "What?" "I can't just... Please, trust me. Something dangerous is happening, and I need to know you're safe. Pack up. Leave. Don't tell anyone where you're going." Silence. Then quietly, "You're scaring me." "Good. Be scared. Be careful." "And Jess?" My voice broke. "I'm sorry. For all of this." I ended the call before she could respond, before I could hear the fear I'd put in her voice. Dante took the phone gently from my trembling hands. "They went to your apartment," I said. "They're looking for leverage. Then it's good you're here and not there." He stood, moving to a window, peering through the curtain gap. "Vincent will send someone to watch your friend. Make sure she gets out safely. She doesn't deserve to be dragged into this. No one does, but this is the reality now." He turned back to me. And the man I saw wasn't the wounded patient I'd cared for, but something harder, more dangerous. You saved my life, Elena. That made you a target. And targets in my world don't survive unless they're protected, or unless they disappear. You think I'd let you disappear? He crossed to me in 3 strides, hauling me up against him despite his injuries. You think I'd let you walk away? Go back to your little apartment and your waitress job, pretending none of this happened? It would be safer. You'd be dead in a week. They know your name, your face, where you live. You think they'd just forget about you? His hands framed my face, forcing me to meet his eyes. You're mine now, Elena. Mine to protect. Mine to keep safe. Mine to... He trailed off, but the heat in his gaze finished the sentence. Mine to possess. Mine to own. Mine. This is crazy, I whispered, but my hands were fisting in his shirt, holding him close instead of pushing away. We don't even know each other. I know you risked everything for a stranger. Know you're brave enough to stitch wounds with shaking hands. Know you haven't run even when you had chances to. His thumb traced my lower lip. I know that when I look at you, I see something I didn't know I wanted until I had it. Had it? You don't have me. Don't I? His mouth hovered over mine, close enough that I could taste his breath. Then why are you still here? Why didn't you run when Vincent left us in that tunnel? Why are you holding on to me instead of pushing me away? Because I was insane. Because something in me recognized something in him. Because in 2 days, this man had become the axis my world turned on, and I didn't know how to stop the spinning. Dante. He kissed me, and the world caught fire. His lips were demanding, consuming, stealing my breath and my protests in one devastating movement. I should have resisted, should have maintained distance, but my body betrayed me. I opened for him, let him deepen the kiss, let him pour all his possessive intensity into the connection. He tasted like danger and desire, like promises and threats twisted together. His hand slid into my hair, angling my head for better access, and I melted against him despite the bandages, despite his wounds, despite every rational thought screaming that this was wrong. When he finally pulled back, we were both breathing hard. Tell me you don't feel this, he demanded. Tell me I'm alone in this madness. I couldn't. Because I did feel it, the magnetic pull between us, the dark fascination, the way my body responded to his proximity like a flower turning toward the sun. It was insane, illogical, dangerous, and it was real. What happens now? I asked instead. Now, we wait for Vincent's information, then we end this. His expression hardened. I'll find everyone involved in the attack. The rival family, the mole, anyone who thought they could touch what's mine. And I'll make them understand what a mistake that was. And after? After we figure out what this is between us. But Elena, his hands tightened in my hair, you're not going back to your old life. You're in my world now, and I don't share. Possessive, obsessive, absolutely certain. It should have sent me running. Instead, something dark and needy in me responded, craving that intensity, that absolute focus. I need to shower, I said, needing space to think, to process all of this. He released me reluctantly. Upstairs, second door on the left. There should be clothes that fit. I climbed the stairs on shaking legs, found the bathroom he'd described. It was basic compared to the penthouse, just a shower, toilet, sink, but functional. I stripped off yesterday's clothes and stood under hot water, watching it swirl down the drain. What was I doing? I'd gone from waitress to Mafia Boss's obsession in 48 hours. My job was gone. My apartment compromised. My roommate in danger. Everything I'd built in this city, every scrap of stability, had been obliterated. And yet, I couldn't regret it. Couldn't regret stopping in that alley, helping Dante, becoming tangled in his dark world. Because for the first time in my life, I felt alive, seen, wanted with an intensity that was terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure. I found clothes in the bedroom, jeans, a soft sweater, underwear that fit perfectly because of course it did. Dante's organization was thorough. They'd prepared for every eventuality, including housing a stray woman their boss decided to claim. When I came back downstairs, Dante was on the phone again, pacing despite his injuries. He saw me, and his expression softened slightly before hardening again as he listened to whoever was speaking. When? A pause. Where? Another pause. Good. Keep them alive. I want to deliver that message personally. He ended the call. Vincent has the mole, and you're never going to believe who it was. Who? My cousin, Antonio. The betrayal in his voice was raw, devastating. Family. And
Blood.
He sold me out for what? Money? Power? A promise from the Balduccis that they'd let him live when they took over? I moved to him instinctively, my hand finding his arm. I'm sorry. Family is supposed to be sacred, supposed to be the one thing you can trust in this world of snakes and liars. His hands clenched into fists. He gave them everything. Security protocols, safe house locations, my schedule. He's the reason they knew exactly when and where to strike. What will you do? His eyes met mine, and I saw something cold and final there. What I have to. What the family demands. Justice. Retribution. He touched my face gently, the contrast between his tender touch and his lethal intent making me shiver. You don't need to see it. Don't need to be part of that darkness. I'm already part of it. The moment I helped you, I stepped into the darkness. Not this deep. There are things... He hesitated. Something I'd never seen from him. Once you see what I really am, what I'm capable of, you might not want to stay. I should have seized that out. Should have said yes. I don't want to see, don't want to know. But the words that came were different. Show me. All of it. Don't hide what you are. Elena, you said I'm yours. That you're not letting me go. Then don't treat me like I'm fragile. Don't protect me from the truth of what that means. I stepped closer, holding his gaze. If I'm going to be in your world, I need to understand it. All of it. He stared at me for a long moment, something like awe mixed with desire flickering in his eyes. Then he pulled out his phone. Vincent, bring Antonio to the warehouse on 5th, the abandoned one. He listened. Yes, I'm sure. And Vincent, bring Elena's friend somewhere safe first. I want confirmation she's out of the city before we proceed. An hour later, we were in Dante's nondescript car, driving through the city toward a confrontation I wasn't sure I was ready for. But I'd asked for this, demanded to see the reality of his world. The warehouse was exactly what the name suggested. Abandoned, forgotten, the kind of place where screams wouldn't be heard. Vincent's SUV was already there, along with 2 others. My stomach churned as we parked. Last chance, Dante said. You can wait in the car. No. He nodded, like he'd expected nothing less, and we got out. Inside, the warehouse was dim, lit by harsh industrial lights that someone had rigged up. And there, in the center of the space, was a man bound to a chair. Antonio, I presumed. He looked like Dante. Same dark hair, same sharp features. But where Dante radiated controlled power, Antonio just looked broken. Vincent stood nearby, along with 4 other men I didn't recognize. All armed. All watching their boss with the kind of loyalty that was absolute. Antonio's head lifted when we entered. His eyes widened when he saw Dante, then moved to me with something like confusion. Dante, please, I can explain. Explain. Dante's voice was ice. Explain how you gave the Balduccis our security protocols. Explain how you told them where I'd be and when. Explain how 5 good men are dead because of your betrayal. They were going to kill Maria, my daughter. They threatened her. Said they'd... So you sacrificed your entire family to save one person? Dante moved closer, every step deliberate. Did you think about what would happen if they succeeded? What they'd do to everyone under my protection? Your aunt, your nephews, everyone who depends on the Moretti family for safety. I didn't know what else to do. Antonio's voice cracked. You don't understand what it's like, having someone threaten your child. Don't I? Dante's laugh was bitter. You think I don't know about threats, about fear, about the weight of keeping people safe? He gestured to me. This woman risked everything to save me. A stranger. And you, my blood, sold me out to save yourself the pain of making a hard choice. I stood frozen, watching the scene unfold. This was Dante's world, where family could betray, where loyalty was tested in blood, where hard choices were the only choices. What happens now? Antonio whispered. Dante looked at him for a long moment. Then he pulled out a gun. When had he gotten a gun? And checked the chamber with practiced ease. Now, you face the consequences of your betrayal. Dante, please, I'm family. Family protects family. Family bleeds for family. Family dies for family. Dante's voice was absolute. You chose to protect yourself instead. That broke the bond. That ended what we were. He raised the gun, and I realized he was really going to do it. Going to execute his own cousin in this abandoned warehouse while I watched. I should have looked away. Should have closed my eyes, covered my ears. But I'd asked to see his world, and this was it. This was justice in Dante Moretti's kingdom. The gunshot was deafening in the enclosed space, but Dante hadn't aimed at Antonio's head. The bullet tore through his shoulder, and Antonio screamed. That's for the betrayal, Dante said calmly. He fired again, this time hitting Antonio's leg. That's for the men who died. He moved closer, pressing the gun against Antonio's temple. And this is me showing more mercy than you deserve. I'm letting you live, but you're dead to this family, dead to me. You have 24 hours to disappear with your daughter. If I ever see you again, if you ever set foot in my city again, there won't be mercy. There will only be the death you earned today. He stepped back, lowering the gun. Get him out of here. Patch him up enough that he won't die, then dump him at the city limits. Vincent's men moved immediately. Dragging the sobbing, bleeding Antonio away, I stood rooted to the spot, processing what I'd just witnessed. Dante had spared him. Had shown mercy in a world where mercy was weakness. When we were alone, Dante turned to me. Now you know. This is what I am. What I do. What you've bound yourself to. His eyes searched mine. Do you still want this? Want me? I should have said no. Should have run. Gotten as far from this violence as possible. But I'd seen something else in that moment. I'd seen Dante choose mercy over vengeance. Even when vengeance was justified, I'd seen him wrestle with duty and morality and choose a path that cost him but saved a life. Yes, I said, I still want this. The relief in his eyes was almost painful to witness. He crossed to me, pulling me into his arms despite his injuries, holding me like I was precious, like I was the answer to a question he'd been asking his whole life. Then you're mine, he said against my hair, completely, irrevocably. Mine. And God help me, I was. 3 weeks later, I stood in a new apartment, not the one 2 floors down from Dante's destroyed penthouse, but one in a building he owned across the city, secure, protected, home. My things had been moved from my old place, my roommate safely settled in Boston, with a generous severance payment from an anonymous benefactor. The war with the Balduccis had ended the way these things always did in Dante's world, with blood and bodies and territory lines redrawn. The family was stronger now, with Dante's leadership proven in fire and violence, and I was his. Officially, publicly, irrevocably his. He came home as the sun set, shedding his jacket and the weight of his empire at the door. The wounds had healed, leaving scars that I traced with my fingers in the dark, mapping his pain and survival. How was your day? He asked, pulling me into his arms. The question so normal it was almost funny. Good. I enrolled in those online classes you suggested. Started writing again. I'd found that in this new life, with security and time and someone who saw me completely, creativity had returned. How was yours? Tedious. Too many meetings with boring men making boring demands. He kissed my temple. But I'm home now, with you. That's all that matters. Home. The word settled warm in my chest. This was home now. Not a place, but a person. This dangerous, obsessive, fiercely protective man who'd claimed me as his own and would burn the world to keep me safe. I love you, I said, the first time I'd said it out loud, though we'd both known it for weeks. His eyes blazed. Say it again. I love you, Dante Moretti. He kissed me then, deep and claiming, pouring everything he was into the connection. When we finally broke apart, he rested his forehead against mine. I love you, Elena Martinez, my savior, my obsession, my heart. He smiled. that rare, genuine smile that transformed his whole face. The woman who found me in the garbage and decided I was worth saving. Best decision I ever made, even though it destroyed your old life? My old life was existing. I gestured around us, at the life we'd built together in blood and chaos and impossible love. This is living. And as Dante pulled me toward our bedroom, toward the promise of the night ahead, I knew it was true. I'd found a mafia boss dumped like trash, saved his life, and in doing so, found my own. The journey had been violent, terrifying, stained with darkness I'd never imagined, but it had led me here, to love that was fierce and consuming, to a man who saw me completely and wanted me anyway, to a life that was mine in ways the old one never had been. I'd found Dante Moretti bleeding in an alley, and my life had changed forever. Changed, but not ended. This was just the beginning. It was just the